On June 17, 2003, WWE officially acquired the trademarks and tape library of the controversial Extreme Championship Wrestling. With the nostalgia of those three letters so fresh to many of hardcore fans, the company went to work by producing 3 separate DVDs, all themed around the chaos of the Philadelphia-based wrestling company. One in particular, The Rise and Fall of ECW, became a critical and financial success for their home video division, selling well over hundreds of thousands of copies. The success of the Rise and Fall documentary showed WWE that there was still a desire to see ECW in some capacity, thus leading to the first ever One Night Stand pay-per-view in 2005, taking place in the same venue as the original promotion's last ever pay-per-view, the Hammerstein Ballroom. The show stood out for allowing Paul Heyman to have control of the event, while remaining faithful to the original spirit of ECW, and is what many consider to be the best fan service a wrestling pay-per-view could provide. Now with 2 massive successes for ECW, discussions would occur heading into 2006 as to how a revival as a proper brand with a weekly show could happen. It was originally pitched to be an online exclusive program, allowing it to carry the familiar chaos and violence of the past, while also acting as a developmental brand to help prepare new talent for RAW and SmackDown, or to help reinvent already established talent. But after feelers were sent out to networks, the direction for the new brand would be altered a bit. In May that year, it was officially announced that ECW would be relaunched as the 3rd brand in WWE and begin airing on the Sci-Fi Channel soon after. The relaunch would properly begin with another One Night Stand pay-per-view in the Hammerstein Ballroom. But the focus this year would be on a storyline between WWE and its superstars fighting against the reborn ECW and its roster of familiar and new faces. But before they arrived to New York, there was one brief stop left to make. To further promote both the pay-per-view and the relaunch, a 2-hour special took place on the USA Network, pitching WWE against ECW in a series of matches for brand supremacy. Today's video is going into detail of everything that took place on this special, seeing how well they promoted One Night Stand, and if they helped legitimize this new iteration of ECW prior to its weekly show officially debuting. This is the story of the WWE vs. ECW head-to-head special. The special took place on a Wednesday night, June 7, 2006, at the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio, with the attendance estimated to be around 4,700 fans and the show getting a 3.05 Nielsen rating. The setup at first appears identical to the usual Raw stage, but off to the side, the ECW talent have a small entryway and will instead make their entrances through the crowd instead of the ramp, which is a small but nice touch to help make the opposing side feel unique. It opens on locker room rallies for both WWE and ECW, with Mick Foley telling a handful of Raw and SmackDown superstars to not allow Paul Lee and his crew to embarrass them in their own backyard, and Rey Mysterio calling them a bunch of punks before the guys stand united against the invaders. Paul Heyman tells his guys that tonight will be a reminder of how they've always been better than the WWE talent, ending with all of them chanting those 3 familiar letters in unison. After the pyro and ballyhoo, the announced teams are introduced as they run down the matches to take place tonight, with JR and The King representing WWE, and Joey Styles and Tazz, after leaving their previous announcing gigs on Raw and SmackDown respectively, for the revived ECW. Tazz tells Lawler that he's lucky The King is out of his reach, with Jerry rebutting, calling him a frog and telling him to leap over there, neither man wanting to wait until One Night Stand to get their hands on each other. While Joey and JR try to calm their broadcast partners down, we go to the opening match as SmackDown's World Champion Rey Mysterio takes on Mr. Money in the Bank Rob Van Dam. The former tag team champions shake hands at the opening bell before quickly going back and forth, leading to a standstill. As Mysterio attempts an arm drag that gets reversed into a military press drop and standing moonsault from Van Dam. Rob spends too much time taunting to the crowd afterwards and gets caught by Mysterio for the 619 but is able to roll onto the apron. With Mysterio cutting off a springboard attack via a dropkick that sends Mr. Monday Night to the floor. Rey attempts a baseball slide dropkick but gets caught into a carrying position by RVD and then drops chest first onto the barricade. Van Dam almost loses his balance trying to drop his leg onto the world champion, but Mysterio moves just in time. Rey gets back into the ring and then hits a springboard crossbody from the ring to the first row onto Van Dam as we go into the first commercial break. We return to see the Ultimate Underdog attempt to hit the Bulldog on Rob, but instead getting caught and dropped right onto the top rope. The whole effing show then hits his fang kick from the top rope, sending Mysterio crashing to the outside. Van Dam then brings him back into the ring with his upper body laying on top of the apron, allowing Rob to hit the slingshot leg drop right onto Rey's chest. RVD then brings him back in to get the pinfall, but Rey kicks out. After a quick back and forth exchange in the corner, Van Dam grabs a chair from ringside and uses it to hit a seated dropkick onto Rey. The former Cruiserweight champion gets sent into the opposite corner, and as Van Dam attempts to hit a front roll, Mysterio dodges and then sets him up for a middle rope bulldog right onto the chair, but only gets 2 on his follow-up cover. Rey then attempts to hit a springboard leg drop but ends up landing on the chair after Van Dam moves out of the way. The former IC champion then places the chair on top of Rey, and as he goes for the 5-star frog splash, Rey pushes the chair out of the way, but Van Dam is still able to make contact and gets the pinfall victory, also giving ECW their first victory of the night. Rob helps Mysterio to his feet and continues to show mutual respect in spite of the ongoing brand warfare, as he celebrates his victory on the head-to-head special. We then go to a replay of Kurt Angle getting attacked by Randy Orton with an RKO 2 nights earlier on Raw, as we then see the Olympic gold medalist heading to the ring to address his opponent for One Night Stand. After Angle makes his entrance, he explains that he wasn't upset with the sneak attack in his hometown of Pittsburgh. Bringing up how he snapped Randy's ankle 2 months prior, he said that was his favorite time hitting someone with the ankle lock. With Sunday being their first ever match against each other, Orton is warned that he'll be facing a more extreme Kurt Angle at One Night Stand. The Legend Killer then interrupts, asking Kurt if that promise was supposed to scare him. Randy says that he actually feels sorry for the former WWE champion, comparing his move to ECW to starring in a summer blockbuster to, doing hardcore porn, while roasting ECW fans for consuming it. Orton then talks about wanting to reach the top of the mountain as he officially announces his move from SmackDown to Raw.
Oh, there's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
I'm sure Kurt's shaking in his boots. Give me a break.
Kurt then explains what exactly this new version of himself is all about. He says that now he doesn't have to worry about offending Olympic officials, sponsors, or even Vince McMahon, and that the only thing he'll have to worry about is kicking ass. He then promises to make sure that Raw's newest signing will be crawling out of the Hammerstein Ballroom with a broken freaking neck. Randy cuts him off and blames the ankle injury for costing him the World Heavyweight title, while wondering how to pay Angle back. Randy claims that this was destiny waiting to happen, and that he'll live up to his nickname by killing the legend of both Kurt Angle and of ECW. We get some female competition for WWE and ECW as the women's champion Mickie James takes on a former champion in Jazz. Some quick tie-ups lead to Mickie sending Jazz off the ropes, but a cartwheel reversal leads to a combo of kicks and a dropkick that knock James down. Jazz then hits a Luthes press off the apron to the outside before sending Mickie back into the ring and attempting to hit a body splash in the corner. Mickie moves and almost hits the chick kick, but Jazz is able to dodge and hit the Jazz Stinger to get the pin, but James gets her foot on the bottom rope. Mickie gets back to her feet before poking Jazz's eyes and then hitting the jumping DDT for the win, also giving WWE their first victory on this special. Coming back from commercials, we're shown a video package highlighting the violence and danger that Sabu can bring, as we then go to a backstage interview with WWE Champion John Cena. John talks about getting attacked by Sabu in the ECW roster during the contract signing on Raw, while also mentioning the possibility of the WWE Championship going to the opposition if he were to lose on Sunday. He also mentions that the atmosphere of the Hammerstein Ballroom will certainly add onto the pressure for the pay-per-view, before he tells his opponent for tonight, Sabu,
Understand that you have now officially pissed off the wrong, fire-breathing son of a bitch! Hoorah!
Paul Heyman is in the ring to talk about the resurgence of ECW, as the brand is set to debut on Sci-Fi the following Tuesday. He mentions that it won't just be the same as before, it'll be a whole new breed unleashed, before he then promotes all the matches for the One Night Stand PPV and then shows highlights from the previous year's event. We go back to the ECW locker room where Kurt Angle fires up the rest of the team as they head onwards to the upcoming Battle Royal. Meanwhile, the Big Show explains how Kurt stabbed all the WWE roster in the back by joining ECW and how he's only looking out for himself. But the RAW and SmackDown guys are different. Regardless of the brand, they're all one big family, and he ends it by promising that all of Paul Heyman's guys have no idea what they're gonna get. We then come back to the over-the-top rope battle royal featuring 10 WWE superstars against 10 ECW extremists, with both of WWE's brands being represented, including Big Show, Randy Orton, Mark Henry, and Edge, while ECW is represented by Kurt Angle, Terry Funk, Sandman, and Tommy Dreamer, amongst others. Dreamer immediately goes after Edge as the match gets underway, with Edge staying outside of the ring before Mark Henry gets eliminated almost instantly. Some of the other WWE guys get thrown out before Edge assists Randy Orton in eliminating Tommy Dreamer as we then fade out to the break. We return to see Edge still hanging on the outside but helping to eliminate his other opponent at One Night Stand, Terry Funk. The rest of the ECW field start to get cleared out before Kurt Angle eliminates the United States Champion Bobby Lashley. Joey Styles then mentions on commentary what Sandman's reputation was before he got into wrestling.
Well, you mentioned that JR likes to talk about people's amateur background. For 10 years before becoming a wrestler, Sandman split his time between rugby and prison. He's got 20 arrests for bar fights and spent 6 months in solitary confinement for punching out a prison guard. I like Sandman in a battle royal. Yep.
As Kurt Angle remains the only ECW guy left to fight off Orton, Show, and Finlay in the ring. Edge finally sneaks his way back in looking to hit the spear on Angle, but instead gets tossed out by his former rival. Randy takes advantage of this brief distraction to eliminate Angle and get WWE the victory in the Battle Royal. Until...
What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell is this? Are you shot? Holy crap! Oh my god! Oh my god! The Big Show with ECW's turn! The Big Show has defected!
Show reveals his true colors, chokeslamming Orton and then tossing him to the outside to get his new home the win. Show and Kurt have a brief stare down as Angle processes what just happened, but joins him in the ring and welcomes the world's largest athlete to the ECW family. We later see the rest of the ECW locker room joining in on the celebration with some beers. I'll admit that several years ago, when I first saw this clip of Big Show jumping to ECW from the Battle Royal, I didn't really understand at first why he decided to do so, as it felt pretty random and out of place. But if I may for a few moments, I want to try to explain the storyline reasoning that I could find as to what caused this to happen. Now granted, I don't know if this is a Pepe Sylvia type of deal where I'm overlooking something just trying to connect all the dots for a simple explanation, but it's the best reasoning that I could find to try and answer this several year-long question that I've had. On the May 29th episode of Raw, during a face-to-face confrontation between Heyman and Mick Foley, Paulie described what his vision for the new ECW would be, including which wrestlers could have the chance to be a part of it.
You know ECW is coming back full time. And because of that now, it's open season. Anybody on Raw or SmackDown that wants to jump to ECW is more than welcome to. And in addition to that, Vince McMahon has given me 2 draft picks.
Before revealing that Rob Van Dam and Kurt Angle were his draft picks from Raw and SmackDown. Later in the night, Big Show would lose to Edge in a #1 contenders match for the WWE title, with that loss possibly being the final straw that led him to consider jumping ship from Raw. The final note to mention was that several weeks later, when ECW officially began on Sci-Fi, a backstage segment between Big Show and Paul E was shown on the July 4th episode, where the showster claimed that Heyman had promised him an ECW World title match if he decided to join the brand. And while I don't doubt the plan was always to have Big Show eventually beat RVD for the title thanks to Paul Heyman, Rob's real-life suspension soon after changed plans rather quickly. As on that same episode, Big Show did end up winning the title thanks to Paul Heyman in the main event. Now admittedly, I could be looking more into this than there is, but given that Heyman didn't have a real explanation the following week on ECW, instead blaming the fans for why he did everything and then suspended Rob Van Dam, this is honestly the best explanation that I could personally find as to why the Big Show suddenly decided to jump ship to the new ECW. Edge is joined in the ring with Lita and Mick Foley as the Rated R Superstar takes on Tommy Dreamer in the first of 2 Extreme Rules matches. Edge cuts a promo saying that Mick Foley had learned hardcore from the likes of Funk and Dreamer back in the original ECW, as we're shown a segment of the Kane Dewey promo from 1995, before Tommy Dreamer and the Funkster eventually make their way out to the ring. Edge starts the match holding the chair while Dreamer has the barbed wire 2x4, but Tommy knocks the chair away and Edge quickly escapes out of the ring before getting hit. The man formerly known as Sexton Hardcastle gets a few shots in before being Irish whipped into the steel steps, as Dreamer then brings in a trash can filled with weapons such as a sign that quickly gets used. Lita grabs Tommy's foot, giving Edge the chance to return the favor with a shot to the head. Edge places the trash can and attempts to drop the former ECW champion on it, but Dreamer instead reverses it into a neckbreaker. While on commentary, Joey Styles explains to Jerry Lawler how ECW helped to bring eyes to the likes of Guerrero, Malenko, and Mysterio to American viewers.
Hey King, it was ECW who brought the late Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Rey Mysterio onto television in the US because at the time WWE didn't want them. They wanted 6'5" bodybuilding stiffs like the Ultimate Warrior and Lex Luger. You can have them.
Dreamer then sets up a chair, but Edge reverses and lands a drop toe hold that sends the Innovator of Violence crashing face first onto the seat. The trash can then comes into play as Tommy gets hit with an execution smack dab onto it, but then ends up kicking out of Edge's pinfall attempt. Dreamer reverses an Irish whip into the corner, but outsmarts the Ultimate Opportunist by hitting a low blow during Edge's leap. It's also worth noting at this point that Jerry, Tazz, and Styles are practically arguing with each other on commentary and only calling some of the moves in between their bickering, all the while JR is trying desperately to reel everybody back in. Meanwhile, Dreamer places a chair in the face of Edge and then hits the running dropkick right into it. Funk helps Dreamer get a table into the ring, and before Tommy can hit Edge with a superplex through it, Lita intervenes with a kendo stick. Terry gets in the ring, grabbing Lita by the hair, before Mick Foley gets in and wraps some barbed wire around his rival's neck, as Edge finally recovers and looks to piledrive Tommy through the table. Dreamer instead reverses with a back body drop, but ends up missing the table and Edge takes a bad landing from it. Tommy then puts Edge on his shoulders and hits the Dreamer driver through the table, but as he goes for the cover, Lita once again interrupts with the Singapore Cane. Dreamer no-sells the shots, and as he sets Lita up for the powerbomb, he turns right into Edge, who hits him with a spear to get himself and WWE another win ahead of One Night Stand. Meanwhile, Terry Funk, even with the barbed wire around his head, busts Mick Foley open on the outside with a series of punches to the head, as the hardcore legends stand tall in the ring before we go to commercial. We come back to Foley sitting in the ring, still with that fresh wound from earlier on display, as he bears his soul to the fans in attendance on what ECW and hardcore wrestling truly did to him.
Where the hell do any of you get off telling me I sold out? Where do you get off? Where do you find the nerve to call me a whore? You think I hate ECW? I love that place. I love that place. But ECW simply didn't love me back. She was like the girl I can't let go of, but the one who makes me sick upon seeing her. She wanted too much blood, too much of my heart, too much of my life. So I left, and I found fame and fortune in WWE. And Paul Heyman was right. There's only one real difference between me and Tommy Dreamer. I'm a whore, and he's not. You see, about 7 years ago, I pulled a sock out of my pants and made Vince McMahon laugh, and the doors of opportunity opened wide for Mick Foley, but not for Tommy Dreamer. All he's got is his heart, his pride, and the initials ECW. And I want to tell Edge that I went back and I watched our WrestleMania match. The greatest hardcore match of all time, I said. Well, the truth is, maybe it wasn't quite as good as I thought. Maybe, Edge, you and I are going to have to be tougher than ever, hungrier than ever, sicker than ever, to walk into that steaming cesspool that is the Hammerstein Ballroom. 2,500 sickening, twisted fans screaming for our blood. Because Tommy Dreamer can do everything I can, and maybe with more passion. He's gonna beat us up all over New York City. He's gonna bludgeon us. Terry Funk, the greatest wrestler I ever saw. You look at Terry Funk and you see an old man, you're not seeing the real Terry Funk. His slaps hurt worse than most men's punches. His punches dole out concussions. And when he picks up a weapon, he can use it like no man ever has. He is in excruciating pain, waking up every single day, looking for one more chance to have one great last match. I blew the son of a bitch up in Japan, and he came back and hugged me. I set him on fire in Philadelphia, and he put his arm around me. He doesn't put his arm around me anymore. I don't want your arm around me, Terry Funk. Tommy Dreamer, the only difference between me and you is I had the guts to go to WWE. Because when I go to the Hammerstein Ballroom, Edge and I are prepared to take the beatings of our lives. And I will do that to exercise the sick, twisted whore that is ECW. I want her out of my life. You've seen me thrown off cells. You've seen me slammed in tacks. You've seen me go through a burning table at WrestleMania. It is nothing compared to the horrors I will unleash on Dreamer and Funk. And God damn you, ECW. Because I'm gonna stake the hearts of your heroes, and I'm gonna shove them down your throats for making me fall in love with you to begin with. You stepped on my heart. You stepped on my soul. You took everything I had believed in, and you threw it away. And now when I walk into that ring at the Hammerstein Ballroom as a WWE legend, you, Terry Funk, and you, Tommy Dreamer, will learn about loss. Have a nice day.
We cut back to the announce tables as Lawler has finally been fed up with Tazz and Joey Styles. He gets up from his chair and walks over to their desk, wanting the human suplex machine to fight him. Tazz obliges and gets his blazer off before going into a heated back and forth between the two as referees and agents break things up, all the while JR and Joey Styles share some opposing thoughts on the brawl.
Hey, come on! Do that! Let him go! Don't break him up! Don't break him up! Let him go! Let him go! What a television show to do here! Who gives a rat's ass?
Oh yeah, I can't.
We get another recap of the contract signing between Cena and RVD from Raw, as we now go to our main event of the head-to-head special, John Cena vs. Sabu in the other Extreme Rules match of the night. Both guys start throwing rights before Cena gains the early advantage and stays on the aggression against the nephew of the Sheik. The champ whips Sabu into the corner but gets hit with a low blow and gets tossed out of the ring. Sabu then hits the somersault senton on the outside and then grabs a chair to throw right at Cena's face, before doing it again in the ring. He then sets the chair up to hit the triple jump moonsault, but only gets a 2 count. The former ECW champion hits the Arabian facebuster as both men head back outside before Sabu sends the Doctor of Thugonomics into the steel steps. After dragging Cena to the Raw announce desk, he hits another facebuster right onto the table cover and then again to the floor. Back in the ring, Sabu tries to launch another attack into the corner but gets caught by John and then hit with the FU. Just as John locks in the STFU, Big Show runs into the ring to attack John and cause the disqualification. And while I would mention here that WWE having a hardcore match of any kind ending in a DQ would make no sense, I also want to point out that Sabu's match with Rey Mysterio at One Night Stand, also being under Extreme Rules, ends in a non-finish, so make of that what you will. This finish then causes both locker rooms to clear out and head out to start another chaotic brawl between both sides, as the show goes off the air with Joey Styles saying this.
WWE opened up the gates to their own hell when they relaunched ECW! We'll see Sunday! You will see!
Soon after the special ends on USA, John Cena gets back to his feet and helps clear the reign of ECW wrestlers via a kendo stick. As the WWE Champion stands tall mere days before he ventures into the land of Extreme for the very first time. As a way to further promote One Night Stand, I felt the head-to-head special did serve its purpose and did a good job of hyping all of the major matches for that Sunday, while also building some more anticipation for the weekly ECW show, by throwing Big Show onto the roster and putting over the idea of Rob Van Dam possibly winning the WWE title. Watching this as a wrestling show, it was fairly average. The Mick Foley promo was by far the best thing from this, and it's some of his best work on the mic that he's ever done. I thought Mysterio and RVD in the opener was the best match of the entire night. Mickie James and Jazz was okay, but they could have been given a bit more time. The Battle Royal was fairly average up until that swerve at the end. Edge and Tommy Dreamer had a good showing for a hardcore match. But I really wasn't a fan of Cena vs. Sabu, and especially that DQ ending that led to the usual brawl. The two would get a chance to run it back at the Vengeance pay-per-view a few weeks later in a much better Extreme Lumberjack match. If nothing else, this special is worth mentioning for how WWE went out of their way to establish ECW as something completely different compared to RAW and SmackDown during the early days of the revival. Somewhat sticking to a lot of the original concept, but just with higher production costs. Unfortunately, this period wouldn't last long, as for many different reasons. The 2006 relaunch of ECW didn't turn out the way anyone in the company had hoped, but that might be a story in itself worth diving into for another time.